Hey guys, so for my mini text lesson plan, I decided to do what my AP Lit class I am observing in right now is going to start here soon, and that is Jane Austen. It's one of the ones that show up on the AP test, so my cooperating teacher says, and he always does Pride and Prejudice every single year, and I decided to do a little bit different for my lesson plan. I wanted to focus on the novel Emma by Austen. One, because I wanted to see if I could get a different text in the class and it still fit the criteria. And two, I wanted to find a novel by Austen that was going to be a little bit more relatable for the students than Pride and Prejudice is. And so I'm calling the lesson plan Understanding Emma. And students will be able to explain how the character Emma develops over the course of the novel, and they'll also be able to identify specific events that aided in her development and how it relates to the context. I'm drawing this from Reading and Literacy Standard 8.1, which says, analyze a complex set of ideas or sequence of events and explain how specific characters, ideas, or events develop and interact within a particular text. For my lesson plan, the students are going to need access to the novel. It's going to be a print version or the approved Project Gutenberg digital text that I will let them use. It's free for them. They can access it at home or during class. And just as long as they follow with the correct chapters, and they're good to go. I'm also going to provide some guided notes for universal instruction, just so that they can understand what's going on in every chapter and not get lost. And if they are lost, then they can just go to their questions. I'm also going to incorporate YouTube, and I'm focusing on this Transmedia web series called Emma Approved. Pemberley Digital puts on these web series for Austen's work, and Austen is actually one of the most remediated authors of all time, and so this is going to be interesting for students to see how not only has it been remediated in different novels and in movies, but now it's also YouTube series. If I'm moving on my pre-reading strategy, I am just going to give them some questions, make sure they know it's not graded, just to gauge where they're at with the world of Jane Austen, any previous text they've read by her, what they know about Emma, just so that I know what areas I'm going to have to focus on the most when it comes to background knowledge before we start reading the book. I think it's very important to know where the students are at so that you can be able to teach to their weaknesses but also their strengths. And my cooperating teacher does this with the AP test. He will label all the questions as theme, figures of speech, comprehension, stuff like that. And he'll put it all into an Excel sheet, and all the ones that the students got the most right or the most wrong, he puts it into that Excel sheet, and that's where he will figure out what areas needs to be focused on the most. So the questions that the students got most wrong typically are centered around theme, and so he focuses a lot on theme. My concurrent reading strategy is just going to be those guided reading questions. We'll give it to them whenever they have reading. Say they have to read chapters 1 through 5. They'll have to also look at their guided reading questions and answer them, so that the next day in class I can start the day by seeing what they understood from the reading, what questions they got right, and where we need to talk about before heading on to the next part of the book. My post-reading strategy is down here. I have directions for it. As I decided to give them 3 options because I wanted to make things interesting for them. I also wanted to cater to every student in the class, so I have an assignment for those that are more solitary and want to work by themselves. Then I have one for those that are more theatrical, and another for ones that want to work with technology. And so the first one is for them to write a 2 to 3 page reflection, and pretty much I'm just asking them to reflect on the novel, on the character Emma's development, why it's important towards the text, and how they can relate Emma to their own school environment. I think it's important to have them start drawing those connections now, because it's going to be something they're going to do later on in the future. The second option is for them to perform a live skit. I wanted to do this one because I love when people get up and actually do skits in class and everyone's always entertained. And I wanted to be able to get those ones that can't sit still for that long of a class period to get them up and moving. And I'm asking for it to be 3 to 4 members, just so that it can be a pretty good skit. And the skit needs to be influenced by a scene from the novel. So they're gonna have to pick out kind of one of the most momentous, one of the most important scenes from the novel, or one that really marks Emma's development, and adapt it to their lives today. So a good one would be the scene where Emma insults Miss Bates, really shows how low she went and how judgmental she was, and it was kind of like a turning point. So they could take that scene and put it towards like a high school cafeteria, and have the popular kids making fun of the unpopular or something like that. But it's just all to get them to make those connections into real life. The third option is for them to create a web series, and this would mimic the web series Emma approved. So they'll just sit in front of a webcam or their phone or whatever and take on a role that's from high school. So they could be cheerleaders, chess members, social butterflies, whatever they choose, and take an issue or a social problem from Emma and put it again into their high school environment. So they could make the video where they're all group chatting on webcam, and they're just talking about the issues, whatever they want, just as long as it relates to something that showed up in Emma. And then for my assessment, I'm just going to have the student take a post-assessment test that mimics the pre-test. So I'm going to take some questions from there so I can see, if their knowledge has increased over the unit. And then I'm also going to take some questions from the guided reading questions, because it'll also give them a little incentive to actually do the reading questions, because it'll show up on the test. And then also some new questions, so they're not just memorizing stuff. This right here is the link for the digital version. I sent it to you guys out in Moodle, but I can attach it later if you guys want to read it again. And down here, I actually provide 3 links. I have a link for each. I have a link for guided reading questions, and this is really cool because it actually gives you examples of what kind of questions to ask, and then it gives students advice on how to do guided reading questions. So like once you hit the end of the page, reflect on what you just read, and then go look at the guided reading questions and see if it showed up on that page. So those are cool tips. This one right here is a link to how to get students to perform skits and why they should, and it's all about getting the students involved. And sorry for all the grammar problems that are going on here. And then this one is a link for students creating videos and the benefits behind them, and it pretty much just talks about like how it's an authentic learning experience when the students can be hands-on and working with the content rather than us just telling them. But yeah, that's kind of all I got from my mini lesson plan. And again, if you guys want to go ahead, if you want me to send this link out, if you didn't get it, I will. Just let me know. But thanks, guys.